Fucking love this show, bro.
Yes, tonight we have Adam Lewis from the Off Szn podcast with us. We're going to discuss that shocking Super Bowl result. We're going to take a spin around the NFL's quarterback carousel and try to find the perfect landing spots for some of these marquee quarterbacks. We're also going to debate whether sports should universally call another timeout, because if you haven't noticed, COVID's kind of running up the score on us. And then there can only be one true king in all of sports land. So who holds the crown? Oh, no. Sorry, guys.
You
what
good?
Happened? Can y'all hear me?
Hell yeah. Yeah. You just stopped. You good, man?
Yeah, I'm hearing myself.
Okay.
What's happening here? I'm hearing like a wild echo. Live radio. This is the best part about live radio. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I heard a crazy
I got nervous. I thought you were having a stroke. I was like,
I was like, whoa, he just stopped. I was like,
oh, man. So this intro is going really well. But anyway.
Should I just play the video?
We're just gonna jump into the video. We're gonna find out who holds the crown as the greatest sportsman. Who is that gonna be? Is it gonna be Tom Brady? Is it gonna be Michael Jordan? Find out next.
Hey, sports.
Wow, live
Dude,
radio.
I'm rolling right now. I thought we were going to have a medical emergency, and I was going to have to watch one of my dearest friends literally have a stroke. Thank God you're okay, and it was just a technical issue, because the way you stopped, I don't think I've ever seen you stop mid-sentence like that at all, even when people are arguing with you. So that was scary. I'm so glad it was just a technical thing.
Something happened in my headphones. It was like a static, and then all of a sudden I could hear a ridiculous reverb, and it threw me off, and I didn't know what to do. I froze in time. I apologize. That's nuts. And with that, welcome to Stuff About Sports. I am the Facebook felon Jerm. That's the prettier Corey Bert. And tonight we have an illustrious, very special guest, Adam Lewis from the Off Szn podcast. What's up, guys?
What's going on, man? So happy to be on the show. Bert, I'm right there with you, man. He was like, and then coming on the show. And I was like, whoa, what's happening? I was like, I got kind of nervous for you, but no, man, always happy to be here. So happy that we're talking about the Super Bowl. Crazy that the NFL season is over. You know, Chiefs playing in the first game, and now here they are getting their ass whooped to end the season. So here goes the off season and waiting on the draft. So let's do it, man.
Absolutely. Shout out to Brandon DeWitt, who actually won our Bucket of Doom, first ever Bucket of Doom playoff eliminator challenge. Now, here is a funny story about that. If you remember from that first show, I accidentally skipped Brandon at the end draw, and there was 2 helmets left. We thought we had the last name pulled, and we forgot Brandon. He ended up lucking with the Buccaneers in that round, and so by fate, it was preordained that Brandon was going to win this thing. Another funny note, Brandon actually drew the Buccaneers every single round. He was the only person to have the same team every single round. So shout out to Brandon. You win the bucket of goods is coming to you. Mike's getting that together. We got your address. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting the show. Laugh on tour. Hey, man, thank you very much. We stumbled out the gate. That was the first time I did that particular intro. But, hey, we got through it. I appreciate that. Appreciate you. And Mike Powers, love that shirt. Yes, I love that shirt, too. This is the new line coming from The Divide on the Give Us a Shot network. As you know, Corey is a Yankees fan. Mike is a Mets fan. Bert here's a Yankees fan. I'm a Mets fan. So it fits. Who's going to run NYC? Of course, I'm rocking the Mets version. Behind me is the Yankees version. You can find these shirts on the Give Us a Shot Network shop at giveusashot.network/shop. Available. Hopefully we'll have them up tomorrow, but check them out. So, guys, listen, Super Bowl, unbelievable. Yeah, it was. I would say if I could sum up the Super Bowl in one word, it would be shocking. Bert, what was your biggest takeaway from that game?
Honestly, how well the Buccaneers defense played. And look, we knew that the Chiefs, they had some injuries in their O-line, but the fact that their tackles it was like Swiss cheese out there. Like, why even bother? Poor Mahomes is running for his life. All in all, I think Mahomes had a good game. His receivers dropped some very catchable passes, and apart from his O-line just letting them through. But the Bucs defense played insane. I was shocked that the Chiefs didn't score a touchdown at all. Honestly, everybody who thought this was going to be a very high scoring game on both ends, I think are shocked out of it, because you had these two high power offense, and this is what we got out of it. So was it disappointing? Yes, because I would have liked to see the Chiefs score a couple touchdowns and make it more interesting. But at the end of the day, you saw Tom Brady do what Tom Brady does, and that is just win Super Bowls. And now he's got 7, and he's accomplished something that I feel very confident in saying no other quarterback in my lifetime will ever do.
I have to agree with you there, Adam. What did you take away from that game? It was a shocking result. I don't think anybody had the Chiefs, as Bert said, not scoring a offensive touchdown. Right? Like it's unbelievable. So what was your takeaway from that game? What's your reaction?
Man, my biggest takeaway from that game is just the adjustments that the Chiefs did not make. And a lot of people were giving me slack about this, but I think Andy Reid got out coached. Where else can you look at it, bro? You go into the half with a 21-6 deficit. You come out and get a field goal to finish the game potentially. I mean, no touchdowns. There were no adjustments made. And here's why it's on Andy Reid. Everyone's saying, oh, what can Mahomes do with having all these injuries and so many things with the offensive line? Okay, they knew coming into this Super Bowl, they were down. They knew the people they had on the COVID list. They knew they were depleted coming in. And me personally, as a spectator, I don't know what Andy Reid should have done, because I'm not an NFL coach. But when you win 26 out of your last 27, 25 out of your last 26, whatever it is, and you don't score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and hats off to Mahomes, 270 yards, but he also had like a 55 passer rating, obviously no touchdowns, a really rough game for them. But my biggest takeaway is just really unfortunately, the shit show Andy Reid put on at the Super Bowl. I mean, hell, was the halftime show better than the Chiefs' performance? I think so, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, man.
You mentioned Andy Reid, but you got to keep in mind like Steve Spagnuolo too. I mean, it's 100% on him as a defensive coordinator, especially a guy who's been in that position before and winning with the Giants too. You would think he would be able to make those adjustments. And honestly, it was a lack of discipline by his guys too, because the amount of penalties that the Chiefs took on defense with holding was insane. Now, granted, some of those calls were a little bit soft, but some were just blatant holds. And, they honestly, they just got burned. And I do think it was a bit of out coaching, but I almost think the Chiefs probably took preparation a little bit lighter than they should have. And I mean, shame on them. It certainly showed on the field.
Yeah. The referee thing is going to be talked about for the next pretty much.
I don't want to hear shit. I'm a Saints fan. I don't want to hear a damn thing.
Yeah, it is what it is. Yeah. People can talk about the refs, but the same, like, yes, where there's some calls that were soft, and even I was yelling at the TV, and I didn't have a dog in this fight. But the same point too, you have to look at the Chiefs' offense not doing anything. So the refs can't win you the game, and it's not like the Chiefs had a lot of offensive penalties. No, it was prominently defensive. So.
Yeah, amazing stat. Patrick Mahomes scrambled for 497 yards before making an actual pass or advancing the ball. That's just all backfield offensive line not doing their job, running around. That
pressured on 60% of his dropbacks.
You're not going to win a game. You're not going to win any games doing that. I don't care who you are. Patrick Mahomes. It's so. Bert, you make a good question. I think Tampa Bay, if you remember, they didn't start this season off valve. They were 7-5 to start the season. They had their late bye week thanks to COVID. A couple games got adjusted, and they had to make their bye week later than normal. And I think that was the blessing in disguise, because after that bye week, they went 7-0, and then obviously swept through the playoffs to win a championship. It's amazing to see what adjustments were. From my observations, the Buccaneers in the beginning, I think, were trying to do too much. They had so much talent. They were trying all the weird gadget plays. They were trying to do all this extra stuff, getting people involved. And I think at some point, and remember, we talked about this a couple shows ago, Bruce Arians came out and said, I just started letting Tom Brady coach the team, and New England didn't do that.
Somebody said it. It's about time somebody was honest about it, because we know what was happening in New England. Come on, bro.
Well, if we're looking at the trajectory, if we're looking at what happened, the falls from New England and Tampa Bay's rise, and especially after that bye week for Tampa Bay, their offense just seemed simpler. It was just, hey, we're going to run the ball with Leonard Fournette and Ronald Peyton Barber, and we're gonna run up the middle, grab a couple chunk yards, and then we're going to rely on our tight ends. We're going to rely on our tiny white guys like Scotty Miller to catch that ridiculous slant play that he's always open for some reason. And then, oh yeah, we have Chris Godwin and Mike Evans and Antonio Brown, and it's like at some point it's just too much. And then Gronkowski all of a sudden woke up from hibernation and became a monster again. It's that Cameron Brate's always been a good tight. It's like there were too overwhelming, and I think their slow start really didn't put it in perspective. And the Super Bowl win proves that Tom Brady said he wants to play till 45, and I laughed at it, and he shut me up. He can do exactly this because he didn't do much. He just completed his passes, and if they can keep him safe, they can compete for the next 2 years of his contract. So
I don't think he deserves Super Bowl MVP. That honestly kind of pissed me off a little bit. I understand it's Brady's 7th record, but I mean,
who in your mind should have gotten that MVP?
I definitely think Devin White for sure, bro. All the plays he made in that game, just the overall presence he brought. And I think it's a stretch saying that. I think it was Schrags on a Good Morning Football saying that Devin White was the best linebacker in football. I think he's definitely up there in that conversation. But overall, I mean, Devin White, just you see all the plays he made. I mean, even the pick at the end. So he had some plays in the Super Bowl for sure. Brady played well. I'm not going to take that away from him. 3 touchdowns, a little over 200 yards, and a good passer rating. But I don't know, just Brady's performance didn't really stand out to me. I feel like this was really a lot credited to that Tampa Bay defense for sure, in my opinion.
No, I'm with you on that one. I didn't think he should have gotten MVP. I thought it certainly should have went to White. I mean, you can make an argument for JPP too with the amount like he was involved as well, but
he was back there on every play, felt like.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, MVP status, no, still has that ring. And I don't know if it was his 10th time being there, right? I mean, half of his career. So, I mean, he probably looked as comfortable as a quarterback could ever look on that stage. Mahomes looked this year how he should have looked last year. Like first time in the Super Bowl, he just looked shook the whole game, but it's because he was running for his life. But, Tom Brady didn't mentally for me have that standout, like amazing game. He had a great game. I think, we've seen little chips here and there at the team in terms of like, they're not invincible. And if you look at the Green Bay game and the fact that, Brady made mistakes, and we've talked about this, and the fact that Aaron Rodgers and the offense couldn't capitalize on Brady's 3 interceptions. But you look at this game and Brady didn't make any mistakes. He was damn near perfect. He played as well as he could have ever played. In a Super Bowl setting. And honestly, they look like like Jerm, like you said, they gelled through the second half of the season or the latter half of the season. And they go into a game like this. And honestly, none of them looked nervous. They knew their job. They studied the tape. They studied their books. They came out and did their job. And that was that, and you saw Brady be that leader throughout the game too. But there's certainly no denying for anybody out there that may have had an inkling for hate towards Tom Brady, you can't deny greatness. I mean, we all watched history. We watched history when he won 6, right? Yeah. But for him to literally change teams, and I'm not saying he was the sole reason he took Tampa Bay throughout this season and to a championship and won the championship, but there are players that wanted to, play with him. So they took less money to go play with him for a chance to play in the Super Bowl and win. And you know what? Here they are. And hats off to Bruce Arians too. Amazing coach. And he got the job done too. He knew how to hold a locker room together.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Tom Brady, like you said, he was damn near perfect, even though like his stat line, it's odd, right? He was 21 of 29 for only 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's, surgical. That's precision. Like he made every yard count. That sometimes you don't need these gaudy stats. I mean, as opposed to Patrick Mahomes, who threw 49 times.
31-9.
Yeah, I mean, it's so like you got Patrick Mahomes who's throwing 49 times and only completing 26 of those passes. It's like, that's coaching, like Bert was saying. So shout out to Tom Brady. There's some other amazing Tom Brady stats, but I'm going to save that for a later segment. But I'm not going to sit here and call the Chiefs overrated or whatever. They just shit the bed. It was just like it was odd. As a Bills fan, the Bills would have gave them the Bucks a better game. The Chiefs had the game against the Bucks that the Bills had against the Chiefs. You know what I'm saying? Like They just didn't come to play, and they're a lot better than what they showed. And it's a shame that it ended that way for them. It was the lowest rated Super Bowl since 2007. So I don't know if what that says about the game itself. I don't know. I was shocked by that when I heard that, but hey, I enjoyed it. I'm a fan of blowouts, man. I just want to see like what happens, and anytime anybody can score. Shout out to LaShawn McCoy, the legend of Shady McCoy, back-to-back Super Bowl winner. He won one with the Chiefs last year, and he wins one with the Bucks this year without taking a single snap in both Super Bowls. That has to be some sort of record.
And then retires.
Yeah, he retired. Did he retire?
I'm pretty sure he did. I'm pretty sure I saw that today.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he would be an idiot not to. I mean, I gotta. I mean, I mean, geez, the luck on these guys. So, let's see. Not that. Yes. So now Brady, as Bert was saying, 7 Super Bowl titles, guys. Tom Brady is the winningest franchise in NFL history. Mm-hmm. He has more titles than the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have 6. The Niners, who have 5, the Cowboys, who have 5, and the Patriots, who have 6 with Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. He has more Super Bowl titles than 19 of the 32 NFL teams combined. So it begs the question, Bert, who is the true GOAT? Who is, when you say the word sports, for a long time, it was Babe Ruth for a lot of people. Uh-huh. Then it became Michael Jordan. Who is it now? Is it still Michael Jordan? Is it Tom Brady? Or is it somebody else?
My mind still goes to Jordan, and it does. And I don't know if it's because we saw him play at an elite level from multiple sports, right? And I know if we're talking championships, obviously you have to give it to Brady. He has the 7 now, but when I think athlete, it just goes to Jordan. And I'm not trying to discredit Brady by anything or what he's doing or what he has done. To me, Jordan just still holds that title. And I don't know if it was the intensity in which he played, and understanding basketball is a little bit of a different game than football, but the intensity he brought, how much better he made his team around him, similar to what Brady does for his receivers. But basketball's, you got to play offense and defense all around. So for him to make everybody better on the court around him, and for him to demand excellence in practice, and from when eventually a Brady documentary comes out, I'm sure I'll see the other side of how intense he was at practice or what have you. But for me, honestly, as I ramble, I think it's still Jordan. It has to be. There's just something about his game that screams best athlete. Again, I think Brady's obviously up there. He has to be, but for me, it's still Jordan.
How about you, Adam?
This one's hard for me, man, because so we're just talking about all-time athlete.
Yeah, like so the face.
This question is
it's hard, right? Because when I say and obviously, I guess you can lump in the individual. Like I know a lot of people out there will say Tiger, for instance, or Serena. Gronk or the D. I wouldn't have been mad at Rob Gronkowski winning.
That's what I said after he caught his second touchdown too. I said he's going to be Super Bowl MVP because he was, all the 14 points for the Bucks at that point.
It is funny. I couldn't think of his name, so I didn't chime in when you guys were talking about what was the Devin White.
White.
I was thinking of Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett seemed to be back there every time I looked up. He seemed to be back there too. He could have been one of the things. But yeah, so when I say the GOAT, like when you say excellence in the team sports or any sport, who defines excellence? Who defines sports? Like Michael Jordan was just that quintessential guy. I don't think anybody was really close to him. But has Tom Brady surpassed that? Now, while you think about that, when I was doing my research on this, because there was only really 3 people that I thought of. Mm-hmm. It was Tiger Woods that could surpass Michael Jordan. It was Tiger Woods, it was Tom Brady, and it was Wayne Gretzky. And the reason, and if in Wayne Gretzky, because in hockey, assists count towards points, right? So
yes, yeah.
Just in assists, Wayne Gretzky has more points than any other NHL player in history who have points and assists combined. Mm-hmm. It's an insane stat. He has 69% more goals than the second highest, the guy behind him. Mm-hmm. It's unbelievable how, like, you forget how dominant a guy like Wayne Gretzky was in his sport, and it'll never, like, we talk about Tom Brady's stats being passed. Wayne Gretzky's stats in production will never be passed. The problem is hockey is not a high consumer sport. We don't consume hockey like we consume basketball or football. So I just wanted to shout Wayne Gretzky out there because I think he deserves to be in that conversation. He actually could win it if hockey was a little bit more popular stateside. I think he would be, but That I just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, we can sit here and name the elite out of every sport, right? And me being a hockey guy, yeah, Wayne Gretzky popped in my head, but for me, like I can't see, like I'm talking best of the best athletes, and he was at that sport. And the same reason why Tom Brady is the best of the best at quarterback in the NFL, for some reason, and maybe it's just because of how Jordan was covered, or maybe it was just in my mind the fact that he said, you know what, I'm good at basketball, I'm gonna go do baseball for a bit, and did that. But there were a lot of guys that switched between, a football and baseball. But I don't know. Jordan just had that edge. Not that Gretzky or Brady or Tiger does not. There's just something about him from an athlete's perspective that would show me. Maybe it was just his overall competitiveness. I don't know what it is, but for me, it's Jordan.
How about you, Adam?
Man, so all right, just talking about who really defines sports and just shows excellence and greatness. There's no question that both Brady and Jordan do obviously bring that to the table. You look at what they've done in their careers, but I mean, when I really start digging into, when we're talking about all time, like who is at the top of the mountain, like top of the food chain, everybody else looks up to them. I got to say Michael Jordan. And unfortunately, I'm going to look at the fact that Brady did cheat a couple years. And I'm also going to look at the fact that Michael Jordan does have a shoe line that he makes $100 million off of every year. Not saying Tom Brady doesn't make money from other side endorsements, but he doesn't have a dope ass shoe line that's probably going to sell long after Michael Jordan is dead. And I think we can all agree about that. You just look at Michael Jordan with the flu game. You look at the never losing in the finals. I understand one coach and, one team, and, people with the LeBron comparison say he's done it with multiple coaches and multiple teams. Now you've got Brady being the second quarterback ever to do it with, first, in both conferences, but now with two different teams. So you have him also breaking that record as well. You look at all the Super Bowl records of Brady. It's really hard to go back and forth, but I'd probably have to say at the end of the day, I'd go Michael Jordan. It would have to stay with MJ. It's obviously been MJ for a while. And I feel like like I said, when you really start nitpicking at what both of them have done, I still got to give it to MJ for sure, man.
Yeah. This was hard for me. And I boiled it down, and yes, the scandals and all that stuff did play a factor. But when I think about it, I'm a black and white guy, and I'm not talking about their race. I'm talking about facts and things, And so for me, it boils down to this: which sport is harder to win? It's football. Tom Brady
definitely
has been more dominant in football, which is a harder sport, than Jordan has in basketball. Brady plays 19 years. He's in the Super Bowl 10 of those times. That's over 50% of his career. He's in the title game. That's an unreal stat. He has more Super Bowl appearances than literally every other NFL franchise, and he's tied with the Patriots. So if he makes it to the Super Bowl again before the Patriots, he will now have more Super Bowl appearances than every single franchise in the NFL. That's ridiculous.
It's dumb what's happening with Brady. We're literally witnessing something that might not ever be replicated again.
It'll never. Bert said it earlier. It will never, ever.
And a lot of people, here's the funny thing. A lot of people are annoyed. They're like, I don't want to see him in this again because we're just tired. Like
I do.
Yeah, but like, a lot of people out there, another year, another Super Bowl. Where's Tom Brady? Like he's going to have to play in it because we're so used to seeing it. People are so sick of it. It's like the Yankees in the 90s. They're they're just like, oh, again, they're going to go, and like it is what it is. But Jerm, you make a good point. It's not just about the wins; it's about the appearances and getting there. And when you just said those numbers, you do have to take a step back and go, holy s, like it's unbelievable. Like like I said, we will never see something like this again. And I think like a lot of us are just like, it is what it is every year, like it's Tom Brady, A
lot of that has to do with the temperament and the pace they're trying to rush these young guys in at, right? Like Tom Brady came in an era where, you could sit the guy down. Aaron Rodgers, you could sit the guy down for a couple of years to develop. You can't do that nowadays. These guys get rushed out of there, and if they don't produce instantly, they are immediately traded or cut, or they get traded to a bad team, or they just don't play again. Yeah. And they don't have that, they weren't trying to rush
Stafford.
Well, Stafford what is it? What is his name? His Stat Padford. Somehow 12 seasons, 3 playoff appearances, and 0 playoff wins, and somehow this guy is like good. I just don't understand.
Thank you.
I don't understand
he
it.
He is an underachiever at best.
Yeah. I mean, look there. People say, "Oh, look at his teams." Yeah, he only had Calvin Johnson. Like, get out of here. Enough of that.
Future Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson.
Somebody break his arm. I'm guessing you're talking about Tom Brady. Listen, he might have to break his own arm because all those rings on his hand is going to weigh him down. He's not going to be able to walk around.
The flu game is suspect. Imagine if Brady played with COVID.
I guess you're referring to the Michael Jordan flu game. I mean, the Michael Jordan
food poisoning game.
The game where the mob said that we were going to kill your dad, so dive on this game so we can make money. So he pretended he was sick. That game, and they ended up killing his dad anyway. So that's just conspiracy theory germ. There's a whole conspiracy theory about Jordan being out gambling, getting in with the sharks. And the mob literally threatened him and told him to dive. And, obviously he didn't. And then that's why he tried to. And then he was like, fuck that. I'm Michael Jordan. I'm going to win. And that's what ended up getting his dad killed. There's a whole deeper, darker dive.
I have to check it out because I'm a conspiracy theorist, like freak.
Yeah. We'll check that out on Stuff About Sports Overtime. So, yeah, I think you could. I think if you name Jordan or Brady, I don't think anybody's really gonna say anything to you about that, but it is a very good debate. One thing's for sure, Michael Jordan will never be replicated. Tom Brady will never be replicated. Yeah, he did. He's like, oh shit, like we're about to get canceled. Sign out. He's about to sign out. Yeah. That's funny. Hey, listen, Michael Jordan was out there trying to shave points, and if he was trying to shave points, Bert, you know what he should use?
Ghost shaver.
He should use a ghost shaver. Okay. This is what I use. If you've looked at my beautiful bald head, you know that I am a frequent user of the ghost shaver. I love it. It's easy. It's $80. Go on over to ghostshaver.com. They treat us nice over there. As you can see, it comes in like a cool little coffin case. I kept it. That's what I store mine in. It's really easy to clean. It doesn't tug. It's a good product. I love it. I'm not saying that just because they're a sponsor. I actually was using it before they became a sponsor. And yeah, check it out. GhostShaver.com. So anyway, guys, there's a lot of things going on in the NFL. NFL QB carousel. There's a lot of Deshaun Watson bugging out in Houston. Let's see. We got Matt Stafford and Jared Goff switching teams. I mean, who would have thought that?
Bless you, Adam.
Bless you, Adam. Who would have thought that Jared Goff was the number 1 pick, right?
He was
3 years ago.
Yep.
And then shipped off to the place, the graveyard, the career graveyard that is Detroit. But it looks like, I mean, hey, I like Dan Campbell, so it might, I mean, they might be able to, you look at their team and you look at the coach and some of the moves they made.
They've got talent, bro.
There's talent there. It'll boil down to Dan Campbell's ability to lead the men and coach Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is motivated. Clearly, he has the talent. He's just sporadic with it, right? Like that's why it just didn't work with Sean McVay. But we'll see. It's going to boil down to Dan Campbell. However, I like what they're doing over there. But we got a couple quarterbacks out there that are on the move. And we will start, Bert, with Dak Prescott. Where do you think is the best spot? Not where do you think he's going to sign. We're going to play fantasy football here. Where would be the best team that would need a quarterback that Dak Prescott should sign to?
Man, in my head, I was thinking where like would he sign? And I think Dallas is going to do their best to keep him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if that too, like whatever.
I mean, honestly, I think he's going to stay in Dallas. I mean, if we're talking fantasy, we know there are a bunch of teams out there that need quarterbacks, right? And at this point, no one's dying to go to Houston. You look at Chicago, but also you got to keep New England in mind too. Like they're at this point now where they're gonna go with their grown talent, or are they gonna try to sign one of these quarterbacks, or at least trade for one of these quarterbacks that are out there in itself. Ultimately, I think Dak stays in Dallas. He does, unless he gets a ridiculous deal. But after the injury this past year, I think he's kind of handcuffed there.
Adam?
Yeah, man, I'm probably going to stick on the same train. I just can't see Dallas getting rid of Dak Prescott. I mean, he is, he's the ultimate mystery of the NFL right now. Probably the most buzz around him. I think it's kind of funny how people are talking about him not getting paid, because I feel like at the very, very, very end of the day, Dak Prescott's going to get his money. I mean, he could go well with a lot of NFL teams. He obviously brings a lot of talent to the table. He can still use his legs if he needs to. He's got a good arm. Obviously, he's a very talented kid. We know the whole hype around Dak Prescott, but more than anything, I feel like Dallas has to keep him. Because I mean, who would really be able to supplementally replace him with a roster that is so lethal if they can get the coaching right in Dallas? For the Cowboys, I just don't see who would be able to replace Dak Prescott. So I'm definitely going to have to say Dak is staying in Dallas without question.
Mike.
Ooh, Mike.
Oh,
check.
sorry.
1, 2,
I
1,
was
2.
muted. There was background noise, and I didn't want the mic to pick it up. Sorry. I thought you were saying that Dak couldn't find a team that could replicate what the Cowboys offer in terms of weapons. No. I think other
you
way.
got me, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Cowboys will be able to supplement Dak Prescott's absence.
Prescott. Yeah, probably not. However, if I was Dak and I'm looking at how Jerry Jones, slave master Jerry Jones, has run that franchise, the team that popped into my head immediately, and it should be the only team on Dak Prescott's list, is the Carolina Panthers. It's the best fit for Dak Prescott. Offensive coordinator Joe Brady runs an offense that is perfect for Dak Prescott. It's QB friendly. He has a better running game with Christian McCaffrey. They will have the money to do it, to supplement his contract. And they have nothing but deep threats. And what is Dak Prescott known for? He's one of the best deep passers in the NFL. Now, the reason it didn't work with Teddy Bridgewater, and I like Teddy Bridgewater, a lot of people will give him he's only a backup quarterback guy, whatever. The one thing Teddy can't do is throw the ball deep. And the problem, bless you, Adam, the problem with that team's construction is that all their receivers are deep threats. They all do the same thing. DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson and all these guys literally do the same thing, and it's hard for Teddy Bridgewater to get the ball downfield. That's why it didn't work with Teddy Bridgewater. It would absolutely, I think, work with Dak Prescott. That
Saints
defense
are
is
stupid
good
as hell for letting Teddy go.
They are. Yeah, they should have. That thing was working. I'm not. But hey,
very well.
I told you the fetish with Taysom Hill. It's unbelievable. All right, so moving on, we're going to stay in the NFC East and move on to another quarterback that looks like he's on the move any day now. That's Carson Wentz, guys. Bert, what they just gave this guy $100 million. It's unbelievable. But where do you think would be the best spot for Carson Wentz?
I honestly, I think he's going to Chicago in one way, shape, or form. I think so. I know that's the buzz going out there and around. I'd be very interested to see what the Eagles would get for him. But I think that's where he's going to land. And you know what? It could fit him 100%. Either that or maybe San Francisco.
That's a good one. San Fran's a good one. Adam, what about you?
Man, so I hate to come on here and feel like I'm being so basic and boring, but at the end of the day, I try to be super real, when it comes to this. I don't see Carson Wentz going anywhere either, man. I mean, I know the Eagles have so much money invested into him. And I know there was a lot of inconsistency between him and Jalen Hurts. I really don't even know why they took Jalen Hurts in the first place. But I mean, they kind of made it work. He was able to put some work on my Saints, but we really don't know what the quarterback situation is in Philadelphia. I don't feel like Philadelphia even knows really who they are right now. So there's a lot of moving pieces in that organization right now, but I don't see why Carson Wentz would go anywhere. I mean, I do see why he would go why he would go somewhere, but I don't really think he has any leverage in this deal. I mean, there's so much money tied to him. Would teams pay for him? Yeah, but I don't feel like it would be a smart move. I don't really feel like he would be able to take a team over the top, to contend for a Super Bowl or even get to a AFC, NFC championship. So honestly, I don't see Carson Wentz going anywhere. Now, I would like to see him move just for the purpose of content, for conversation and really for the NFL. It would just spice everything up. But I just really don't know. San Francisco would be good because Kyle Shanahan loves running the football and he likes that drop back passer. But, is Carson Wentz a little too mobile compared to Jimmy G? We don't really know that. We haven't seen that Carson Wentz since that MVP year. And that's another thing is, a lot of people are hanging on to that MVP year. It's the same thing with Matt Stafford. A lot of people are hanging on to that talent, but they're not looking at those numbers. They're not looking at that record. That they're not looking at all the key instances as to why he wasn't getting it done in the first place. But the argument is there for Wentz with the injuries and not having the totally healthy team around him. So someone could take a chance on him. Someone probably will be stupid and take a chance, but I don't think Carson Wentz goes anywhere. He shouldn't anyways if I had a decision to make for it.
I thought about this long and hard, and there was only one team again. It seems fairly obvious, and that team is the New England Patriots. I think Carson Wentz does exactly what Josh McDaniels wanted to do with Cam Newton. The problem with the logic and flaw of their thinking with Cam Newton is that Cam Newton's not good. So Wentz is a younger
touchdowns, 10 picks this year.
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, and he had barely an arm to show for it. I mean, let's be honest. The majority of his touchdowns came from rushing.
I was so excited. Like, I remember at the beginning of the year, like, he was in one of my early lists for like early performers. Like, he came out, had a good like first game against Miami, but he was never throwing the football though.
His MVP odds in the beginning of the season were nuts, and I never understood it. Bert knows this. I've been saying it for years. Cam Newton is not good. I said that even back when he was winning MVPs. When you have 10 seasons and you have one MVP season in 2015 and the rest are 7 to 9 seasons, you know what that MVP season was? It was a fluke. It was an outlier. It's not who you are. And somehow he parlayed that one amazing season he had into an entire career of he's an MVP candidate. It's unbelievable. He's not good. He sucks. And we'll get to him in a little bit. But the reason why I'm intrigued by Carson Wentz in a New England marriage is because they're the same guy. Okay. They're two entities trying to resurrect a career, essentially. The Patriots are trying to come back and recover from missing Tom Brady and being the dominant team in the AFC. Carson Wentz is trying to get back to that MVP form that he was playing at before Nick Foles came in and took all of his stuff and won a Super Bowl. So I think in terms of scheme, it would fit because I think Carson Wentz is like Cam Newton in the way that New England was trying to cater that offense. I just think he's better. And so, and he's younger, he's fixable. So we'll see. But I think Carson Wentz to New England is probably is a good move for both sides. Let's move on to the biggest fish, the biggest whale in the ocean, Deshaun Watson. Bert.
If the Pittsburgh Steelers right now aren't picking up their phone and calling Houston, they're making a terrible, terrible mistake. They know Ben has 1 year left, but after what they've seen from Ben, especially during the late games of this past season, they know he's basically as good as done. And look, he had a great run with the team. I honestly think it is time for Ben to retire. He's certainly not mobile. You know, he looks slow, he looks lethargic, and he's injury prone at this point. Pittsburgh would just be probably one of the best overall fits for him. He's a mobile quarterback. They have somewhat of a run game behind him to take that burden off, but also they have some receivers too. And we know Deshaun has an arm as well. So I honestly think that would probably be the best move for him. But selfishly, as a Giant fan, I would kind of throw them in the mix too.
Oh no, not Danny Dimes! Come on now,
Danny Dimes. I mean, look, we'll talk about Jerm's sample size of having at least 3 years to evaluate a player. I've had 2, and I'm already saying he ain't it. He's not, and we knew that when he got drafted because when he was drafted in the first round, I didn't think anybody who was a Giant fan was just like, who?
Yeah,
like who is Daniel Jones? So if I'm in fantasy world, the Giants would obviously take, their first round picks and probably Daniel Jones and even Saquon and call Houston up and say, hey, listen, this is who I have. And, can we make something happen? I think it would be dumb for them to move Saquon. But at the end of the day, if you don't have
if you can get Watson for Saquon Barkley, essentially, then you kind of have to do it. So
exactly.
I understand. Adam, what do you think?
Deshaun Watson is a very interesting story because so many teams in the NFL, are interested in him. I was thinking about the Colts at first, but I know the Texans wouldn't do that, send him off to basically beat up on them twice a year. The Saints obviously have no money to go after him. That would be my fantasy take is bring him to New Orleans. I'd send off Jameis, a first-round pick and 2 defensive linemen, man, for Deshaun Watson at this point. I really would, just because the Saints have come up so short for so many years, and it's for the sole impact of not being able to stretch the field. But you look at teams like San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan loving to run the football. Imagine if he was able to bring in an aspect in a quarterback that could just add to that. I think San Francisco next year already, if they get the quarterback situation right, which I think they will, they're probably going to be a top 7, top 8 team in the NFL. They just had nobody healthy this year. They were the Eagles of last year, essentially, So, but Deshaun Watson, I mean, some people say the Patriots, which I don't really know because they don't have any weapons, and Deshaun Watson needs to go to a team that is going to go to the Super Bowl at the very latest by the end of next season. That is the seat that Deshaun Watson is in right now. And you look at teams like, people say Miami. I still think Tua's got another year there. I am a Tua believer as of right now. Don't ship him off. At least give him 4 to 6 more games of next year before you replace him. There's a lot of places, obviously, that Deshaun Watson could go. I mean, so many, and it's hard for me to really decide one. And you even start to think, is he going to get moved? Houston's waiting so long. You see the haul for Matthew Stafford. They should have been working up a deal for the next morning. ESPN, Bleacher Report, everybody should have been blasting out that Deshaun Watson was dealt in a blockbuster trade for 7 picks to the Jets or something, man. Like, for real, another team that Deshaun could potentially go to. You know, you look at the Bears, but the head coach and the GM position's a little shaky. You know, I know I'm throwing so many names out there, but he's obviously the golden goose of free agency and of this quarterback carousel. But I wouldn't even be surprised if, like I said, Houston just pulls another stupid move. And hell, does Deshaun Watson even play a snap next year? Does he potentially hold out because he doesn't want to be with this team? And it is a known fact now that he does not want to be with the Houston Texans.
And it's funny because Houston's already come out and said, I know, I try not to listen to a lot of that stuff. They said that they don't want to trade him. I'm like, all right, man.
They're just denying themselves, bro. See, that's the thing, is when you're in a toxic relationship and it takes you a really long time to figure out that you're in a toxic relationship, because once you know that switch is going to flip eventually. And unfortunately, the switch has already flipped for Deshaun. It just hasn't flipped for the Texans. So both parties are not on the same page, and therefore you're going to continue that shit show in Houston. So I feel bad for Texans fans. I thought after the wild card game, you know, going up 24-0 in the divisional against the Chiefs, I was like, okay, I think the Texans might be a 12-13 win team next year, and then they shit the bed and go 4-12. So really interesting story. Deshaun Watson is the golden goose, though. So I'm ready to see some action happen, though, with Deshaun Watson. I think it's going to be great.
I'm ready for some action too, and that action is going to go all the way to the Bay in San Francisco. Deshaun Watson and the 49ers are
it would be disgusting.
Nasty. Again, another quarterback-friendly scheme out there. A hot young coach in terms of you know, his perception around the league. And he is probably one of the few teams that can credibly say, we are a quarterback away from Super Bowl, because they were already in the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo.
If they got there with Jimmy G, you know they can win one if they get an upgrade from Jimmy G. Come on now. Jimmy G was handing the ball off like 57% of the time the Super Bowl year, you know?
Talk about an outlier. I mean, they have filthy weapons all over the place. It's nice. They were actually hurt at the running back position, so the running game isn't even as bad as it's been. But yeah, San Francisco would be a perfect landing spot for Deshaun Watson. Let's go to the AFC East. There's been some rumblings about one Sam Darnold, especially with the Jets holding that number 2 pick, that they fumbled away by foolishly trying to win games. And they lost out on the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. So, Bert, Sam Darnold, where do you think, or what's the best spot for him?
The XFL. I mean, honestly, I don't think there's other talent out there, and Sam Darnold has been in this league long enough for people to know he's just not a good quarterback. He's not. And, you know, usually you can look at him and say, like, oh, well, you know, maybe if he was with this offense, he'd do a little bit better. I don't think he has it in him to play at this level. I don't. So honestly, if he's not with the Jets, he's going to be a backup somewhere or practice squad, as sad as it is. And look, no shame in that. I mean, you've been in this league, you know, if you want to be a backup and help someone out, but you know, help someone grow. But at this point, if he's not with the Jets, he's not going to have a starting gig next year.
It worked out for Teddy Bridgewater, and it's probably going to work out for Jameis Winston. So sometimes you just have to take a step back to take another step forward, 2 steps forward. So we'll see. Adam, what about you?
Sam Darnold is a really interesting story because I feel like Sam Darnold gets the same maybe y'all will catch my drift. I feel like he gets the same bullshit hype that Matthew Stafford and Carson Wentz get. They know he's talented, but they blame it on the organization, or they blame it on the injuries, or they blame it on not having talent, or this and this and this and that. And I feel like I can lump Sam Darnold into that same category. I don't know, man. I've seen reports about Sam Darnold getting inquired on, and I could potentially maybe see him going to like a Bears or, you know, maybe a Colts. A lot of people say the Colts potentially for Sam Darnold. You know, people were talking about the Colts also for Carson Wentz. But, Sam Darnold is an interesting story because, I mean, the kid is talented, of course, without question, but I don't think he's going to be that guy to get you over the hump. I don't think he's going to be that quarterback that takes a win now. Our Super Bowl window is wide ass open for at least the next 2 to 3 seasons. I don't think he's a solution to that. I don't think he is that missing piece to a team that could get you to a Super Bowl. And I agree with what you said, Jerm. Got to take a step back potentially, maybe take that back roll, be that backup, take that pay cut, and watch for a season, maybe 2, before you get your spotlight with an actual team. I could see I could unfortunately see Sam Darnold staying with the Jets. And I know I've kind of said that, or not even kind of said that. I know I've said that about some of these quarterbacks, but it's just kind of hard to judge right now on where they would potentially be going. But Sam Darnold is definitely an interesting one to look at. No question.
It's funny. The first team that you mentioned, the Bears, was the team that I had written down.
Right.
I think that would probably be the easiest trade and even swap for Mitch and Sam Darnold. And just get it over with. Mitch can compete with Justin Fields or whoever the Jets are going to end up taking at the number 2 pick.
Exactly.
It's odd to say that a guy who's about to be 4 years in or whatever it is, we don't know who Sam Darnold is. I mean, the Jets
so
are an
how
awful
can you take
organization.
a chance on him if you don't know? And I'm sorry, but what I've seen, he will not win you a Super Bowl. I don't even know if he can win you a playoff game. He might be able to win you a playoff game or 2, but he will not win you a Super Bowl. And he sure as hell ain't getting you there.
And the funny thing is, the Bears were winning with Money Mitch, right? Like, so all Sam Darnold is a more accurate, less mobile Mitch Trubisky. Maybe that gets them enough. I don't know what they're going to do. I don't think I don't know how they can roll with Mitch Trubisky again down in Chicago, and the Jets obviously are going to draft a quarterback. It's bad. It's bad. Allen Robinson's about to leave. You got to do something. I mean, I don't know if a small upgrade in quarterback is going to do it, but that was the one place I thought Sam Darnold could go. Or maybe they can do it without and just have him and Mitch compete. I don't know. I don't know what the solution is. All right.
San Francisco needs to go get Allen Robinson.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy. Go get Allen Robinson and Deshaun Watson. Boy.
That's it. It's curtains.
You see, I'm telling you, man, the Bears are kicking themselves because they passed on Deshaun and Pat to
for Money Mitch.
Yeah, I'd be mad. Because you wonder, man, if Cody Parkey doesn't double doink, like I honestly had sneaky suspicions it was going to be a Saints Bears NFC Championship that year, just because that defense was so nasty, and I knew Money Mitch wasn't necessarily that dude, but that was probably his best year compared to how he's played last year and the season before.
You heard it on Stuff About Sports. Adam Lewis from the What Off Szn podcast says, eliminate the kickers. All right, guys. Cam Newton. We said it first. Bert actually stole my joke with Sam Darnold. Cam Newton should join Sam Darnold in the XFL. He bet on himself, went belly up. It's over. Nobody cares about you doing ugly formed curls on Under Armour commercials on Instagram and all this other goofy shit you do.
And
it's
the way
over
you
for you, buddy. Yeah, your goofy hair, your babushkas headdress wraps that you wear, your stupid clown suits, zoot suits that you wear to your games. It's unbelievable. Cam Newton, just go to the XFL 2022, be the face of the XFL when The Rock relaunches it. Bert.
Yeah, I honestly don't think he'll have a starting job next year unless the Jets do what the Jets do best and try to get Cam Newton.
There's always a New York Jets around.
It wouldn't surprise me. It would not in the least bit if the Jets said, "Hey, we're signing Cam Newton." They're going to want to sell tickets. Hopefully, we're back in stadiums by then. And Cam carries a big name. He just doesn't carry a big arm. So honestly, if it's not the XFL or anywhere else, he could go with the Jets.
Brandon says that the Steelers need to force Ben to retire and sign Watson. Yeah, shoot. Like, I don't know how much. I don't know.
The Steelers with Deshaun Watson would be nasty.
That would be nasty. I don't know how many. Ben has 1 year left. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess you could kind of do it. I mean, force him or just bring in, just trade him.
Force him. I mean, he's hurting, and I think he knows it too. So.
DPOY. Yes. Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. So with that whole TJ Watt shit, obviously we know the numbers. Aaron Donald was only ahead of him in like that one category, but shout out to my boy Brian Bolster. He is always serving the knowledge on a lot of topics, and with him being a high school football coach, he went and dug into some numbers, and he was talking about how Aaron Donald was double teamed almost 70% of the time this year. TJ Watt was double teamed like 16% of the time.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald was winning on those double teams 1 out of every 4 times.
Holy
24% of the time he was winning on a double team. So I in that aspect, I understand, because obviously it's harder as an interior lineman to get that pressure, especially when you're going from down to boom right up at the snap. TJ, obviously, whether he, even as an edge rusher or coming as a linebacker, you're getting a little more of a momentum to get on that jump. But I do feel bad for TJ because, I mean, hell, bro, sacks, tackle for loss, quarterback pressures, knockdowns, hits. I mean, you led in 5 of the 7 and we're 2 and 3 in the other 2 categories. I mean, I totally get the frustration, but I mean, when you break it down and you look at what Aaron Donald actually is called on to do, and the fact that the Rams were the number 1 overall defense in the NFL, there's definitely justification as to why Aaron Donald is now a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, I don't think we're breaking any news here. Aaron Donald is really, really good.
He's really good.
He's super good. Speaking of people that got robbed, Coach Sean McDermott of the Buffalo Bills got robbed of Coach of the Year. There's no way that Kevin Stefanski should have gotten.
Jerm, I was doing good, man.
Listen,
I was
doing
it. Good.
I know. I could have handled Brian Dable not winning Assistant Coach of the Year. Sean McDermott deserved. I mean, we were in the AFC title game. Where were the Bears at? I don't know. I mean, the Browns. I don't know. They were at home. Kevin Stefanski. That's what they were doing. Anyway, so we found some good spots. Did we get your Cam Newton, Adam? Your Cam Newton? Where do you think he should go?
Yeah. So I don't know, man. It's Cam Newton is. I don't know, bro. I don't know if he can be an NFL starter. Now you've got people. Who just came out and said it? Some NFL legend just came out and said it, that Cam Newton is just not a starting quarterback in the National Football League. I mean, like you said, the 1 MVP season, and you really hate to see it from a guy like Cam, because you also kind of lump him into that Wentz, Stafford, Sam Darnold kind of category. But Cam Newton is more talented than all 3 of them. He just severely underperforms on a consistent basis. So therefore, when it comes to the forefront, he looks that bad. You were saying that you don't know if Cam Newton is as talented as the 3 of them. I get where you're coming from, but I think we know. Now, we don't get Cam Newton on a good day. That's the thing. Here's where all the fanboys come in is, Cam Newton on his best day. But that's the thing, is you get Cam Newton on his best day maybe 3 games out of the season. Like, maybe. This is a guy that's barely completed 60% of his passes, even in his MVP year. So go figure with that, man. But as far as a landing spot, I don't know, bro. I don't know if even Cam Newton. I think I can confidently say that I don't think Cam Newton will have a starting job next year in the NFL.
I feel you, bro. Yeah. Steve Waldman, what's up, man? It's been a while. First responder. Shout out to my first responder brethren out there. Glad you're safe. Glad you could join us.
I got to shout out Steve too real quick, because jumping back to our athlete question, Steve actually brought up Yogi Berra, which is a really good point, because Yogi has 10 championship rings with the Yankees and then 3 as a coach. So if we're looking at players, if we're looking at, who's the top athlete, you have to throw Yogi Berra in there too.
Well, so I remember when he said that earlier, and I apologize, Steve, for not mentioning it during the segment, because I did want to get to it. And it's funny you say Yogi, because I actually had Bill Russell also written down. The same reason I wouldn't consider Yogi is the same reason I wouldn't consider Bill Russell. It's just ageism, man. Like, the game is just way too hard now. Like, the game is it's past. Like, it sounds like I'm.
Why it's hard to compare eras, bro.
It is hard to compare
eras.
Because it sounds like I'm downing what Bill Russell and Yogi Berra and Babe Ruth and Wilt Chamberlain and all these greats who dominated like no other at the time. But it's like, yeah, but you were playing against like plumbers and milkmen. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard. Right. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. It's just the facts. Like, it's just
that was just the times.
It's just the times now, man. Like, I mean, Alabama football team would destroy the Jim Brown, the Cleveland Browns or whatever. Johnny Unitas couldn't start in today's NFL. You know what I'm saying? Right. Like, I can't. Yeah. That's not. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him. It's just that the game has elevated. It's hard. Like, it's just harder. So,
right.
And like the era, it's one thing to compare like Jordan and Kobe and LeBron. The eras kind of meshed and melded, and they're kind of similar. But when you're like, I can't compare Bryce Harper or Mike Trout to like Babe Ruth.
Exactly.
Like that, so.
Yeah. And then people are like, oh, when you look at the era, it's like, bro, Come on now, for real. Like, and then chances are you're probably talking to someone that like worships baseball. So they're just gonna have the one up on you either way, and it's like, man, it's hard.
That's the other argument. That's the Wayne Gretzky argument I had earlier. It's just the baseball's not a high consumable product. That's why it's not on TV.
It's not, bro. I don't watch it unless it's the playoffs or I'm at the game. I
watch it. I consume the Mets now because I've dedicated, and I promised Mike that I would, and I'm hardcore into the Mets now. But I still struggle to watch the games. I watch Mets games, and I'll occasionally catch a good game if it's on. I don't really follow it as close. Baseball's hard, man. You can't follow it every team week to week like you could basketball or
not every team. No,
not every team.
I mean, absolutely not. There's so many games. That's
too many
what
games.
it is. I mean,
too much.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk baseball next week because there's some interesting things, and as the season and spring training ramps up, or maybe it won't. We don't know because, guys, now that the Super Bowl's over, the NFL was spearheading this fight against COVID. After the Rudy Gobert news broke out and sports was effectively shut down, it's kind of been a losing battle ever since then. I mean, we've had some good moments, but as the COVID cases ramp up and everything happens, now that football is over and there's nobody to be the shield for the rest of the sports world, baseball spring training is supposed to kick off next week, Bert. I mean, as far as I can tell, they're not pushing the season back. They wanted to push the season back. They're going full steam ahead. I mean, Adam, like hockey has been, I don't know how much NHL you've been consuming, but it's been a fucking disaster for the NHL.
Been a mess.
Right.
It's been a mess for the NBA.
I've heard of them just straight up like not playing games in some sports because they just can't. They just can't do it.
So that's my question. Start with you, Adam, on this one. Should sports once again call a timeout and pause everything?
Man, if we're asking this question, as much as I love, the passion that I have, and as much as I love, creating content and being on shows all the time and being on dope ass shows like this, when it comes to sports actually being played, man, I do think we should call a timeout because I said it originally when when sports got canceled. That's when everybody truly realized, oh shit, COVID-19 is actually affecting our lives. Like, wow, we're not going to see college football. We're only going to see the SEC. Like, it was a shock that the NFL was able to do what they did. Now you got the NFL, or not the NFL, the NBA with the $50 million bubble, $150 million, however much it was, to pull that off. So when you see the parameters and the resources that we had to go to make this happen, it kind of makes you wonder, was it really all worth it? And it obviously goes to show you that a lot of sports are a business. It's a lot of driving dollars, views, likes, engagement on social media, just content in general. Content obviously is what rules a lot of the industries, and the NFL and sports, of course, in general brings that about. But like I said it when it originally everything happened, man, when people were having to get swabbed every day for COVID and all these mechanics and things were being talked about and just the social distancing. And I honestly didn't know how it was going to happen. And that's why I said hats off to the NBA. I mean, the NBA bubble might be one of the greatest executions of all time with just any idea. I mean, the fact that was able to happen and they didn't have a single positive test, so they say. But it was great. Hats off to Adam Silver and the NBA for doing what they were able to do. But in terms of sports calling a timeout, I think if we're having to ask this question, it's because we're getting faced with these problems that it's kind of making us think, damn, is it really worth pulling all this off to play a basketball game with nobody in the stadium, but we're televising this really just for the monetization of the NBA? Because these players are going to get paid. There's no question about that. So it's definitely a touchy subject. But like I said, man, as much as I love talking about the game, watching it, and making content about what's going on in the sports world, I think we do need to call a timeout if we are, resorting to this question.
You bring up an interesting point about players getting paid, and I don't know if it's just with the NBA. Maybe it's in their contract that even if they stop, they continue to get paid. But other sports, NHL and MLB, if they don't play their games, they're getting cut their salary.
Right.
So you do see that push from the players to want to keep playing. Here's my take on it. The NFL was a different game altogether. You play one game a week, maybe 2 games in 10 days, depending on what your schedule is. And to reschedule those games, it was a little bit easier than an NBA or an NHL, and certainly an MLB. And obviously, as NBA games continue to get delayed now because of COVID protocols, same thing with the NHL. It's becoming an absolute mess. I think instead of pushing pause, they need to rethink how they are doing things, how they're testing. They also need to put. I mean, look, if these players want to play and they want to get paid just as much as we want to watch the games, there needs to be stricter restrictions. If you're traveling to different cities, you should be on lockdown from the moment you step off the team plane and enter the hotel. And then right back, you play your games to the court, you go back to the plane, you go back home. I mean, obviously, they're humans. They can do whatever they want when they're at home, but there has to be, stricter rules against what they're doing, almost bubble-esque, if you will. Yeah. I think ultimately with everything that's going on, I think the leagues are just going to come to a point where they realize, like, look, we're going to have to push pause. The NBA wants to try to have an all-star game for some reason, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And a lot of the players aren't happy about it too. But I don't think the answer is pushing pause. I just think the answer is, like I said, getting more strict and just try to keep on. If they push pause now, they're going to encounter the same thing they did last year, where it's like, well, when is it safe for us to start up again? And unfortunately, both leagues are too early to even tell if there's a playoff picture. At least last time, 75% of the games had already been completed, so you can kind of see what happens from that point forward. But I honestly think you push forward. Now, baseball, since it hasn't started yet, it's a prime opportunity for them to kind of rethink their season a little bit, and even delay with everything going on. I mean, even with a 60-game season last year, you saw the first week the Marlins went down for COVID. So, I mean, it's one of those things you got to keep in mind, and knowing that this is here. Maybe with the rollout of the vaccines, if they delay baseball a little bit more, some of their players will get vaccinated if they want to. And then hopefully that'll make things a little bit better. But I think they just have to keep pushing on. Otherwise, they may as well just miss out on the whole year, because, I mean, a long view of things, it's not going away. So,
listen, guys, I believe in evolution. I believe in adaptation. All right. And the only way things are going to get back to normal is if we start normalizing. Right. So, no, they shouldn't hit pause. They should go full steam ahead and accept the fact that COVID isn't going to go away. We're all going to get it at some point. It's like, you're taking all these precautions, and NFL did a really good job with this. Hey, you want to show up to the games? Cool. Bring us your vaccination card, or bring us a negative COVID test, and be done with it. And then eventually you're not going to need that. It's like, we went from one player, Rudy Gobert, catching COVID and shutting sports down, to people walking around with COVID and us eating in tents outside and sports not really shutting down. Now, baseball did something really good last year that I don't think they're doing this year. And they had the alternative training sites where they took the minor league teams and basically circused them around the bubbles and had them as reserve. Those are the adaptations that Bert was alluding to that I think they should do. Yeah. Expand the rosters. Like the minor league teams, I was clamoring for Tim Tebow on the Mets last year. I was like, just have your minor league guys. That's what they're there for. I didn't agree with the NFL shutting down those Tennessee Titan games, those Baltimore Ravens games. What the hell do you have a practice squad for? Call those dudes up. Like, just expand the rosters, play the damn games, send your dudes home for 10 days or whatever it is. And that's how I know this is BS, because Fauci's out there saying, oh, you got to be away, 14 days, 21 days, 3 days, like whatever. These players go away. In the NBA, you go away for, I think, 10 days. You have to have 2 negative COVID tests within that 2 days, and then you're good to go. So most guys only miss, 3 or 4 games. It's just, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I get that people are still scared. I have to look at the numbers. There's a lot of people that are recovering from this thing, and these are just the people that are being tested. There's a lot more people out there walking around asymptomatic. It's just, I think you got to take the shock. And it doesn't help that the news and sports news and ESPN and CNN are jumping on like, oh my God, COVID. You got to stop that. You just show up to the games. If you test positive, go home for 2 weeks. You want to come to the games, bring your vaccination card, go out there and get vaccinated, get the players vaccinated, and let's fucking do this shit, because it's a lot of money, and this is not on behalf of the players. I'm not speaking for the players. I'm speaking for the economy of that town. Mm-hmm. The New York Yankees can afford to not have a baseball season because, they can just pawn their stadium out for COVID vaccination sites or whatever else they're doing. But Cleveland can't do that. You know what I mean? Tampa Bay can't do that. A lot of these small market, Milwaukee can't do that. It's just like these cities rely on their sports. And so, and that's without the workers of the stadiums and all these other places. So,
I mean, the jobs alone, like you said, I mean, for everybody in that surrounding area. And Jerm, you brought up a really good point. about like, hey, if you're positive, you go home. That's fine. I think and Steve brings up a great point right now. 17 New Jersey Devils are in COVID-19 protocols, but that also goes within restrictions of the league, right? So if they test positive, yes, go home, stay home. If anybody else on the team tests positive, get them out of there. What the NBA is running into now is with their contact tracing, right? So, I mean, what was it? Kevin Durant had to leave the game because it found
mid-game,
mid-game because at first they didn't.
I kind of thought that was so stupid.
It did. It looked so dumb, and he had every right to sound off about it too, because it's like, hey, we don't know if this test is positive yet. You may have come in contact with somebody that has it. Go play, and then starts playing, and then oh, hey, that test did come back positive. You have to go. Well, at that point, he's already playing with everybody.
Even if he tested positive before the game, he has already played a quarter, 2 quarters and a half.
Yeah.
Him playing the rest of the game ain't gonna hurt nobody.
Mm-hmm.
He done touched and been around everybody he was gonna be around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was a perfect opportunity, and the NBA and Adam Silver's just too pussy to do it, because like nobody wants to be the first guy to ignore COVID, and that's exactly what it's gonna take for the normalization to start. Listen, he already tested positive. We done been on the plane. We done been in the locker room. We done been on shoot around. We done been in the training room. We've already sweated on each other on the court. We've already hugged and high-fived. A quarter and a half ain't gonna make no damn difference. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
just it's unbelievable how slow paced this is becoming, and they're picking and choosing which rules to follow and when to be cautious when they should be ripping the Band-Aid off.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, right? The name of the game is caution, because they don't want a liability. So, I mean, they don't want to be like, hey, he's already been around everybody, let it go. But God forbid he tests positive and then gets everybody.
That's what they sign a contractor for. They're independent contractors. They're not employees. Hey, you don't like it, quit.
Look, I totally get that, but if we're talking scheduling and stopping the season, then if he tests positive, everybody he's on the court with because of contact tracing is not going to be able to play. So there you are, 2 teams that were on the court right now that you have to reschedule games for 2 weeks.
MLB, LA Dodgers legend and hero Justin Turner absolutely had COVID and was told to leave the game. When they won, he ran right on that field and kissed and hugged everybody. He's an absolute legend. And Bert, remind me.
You're misremembering the details. He didn't go with the team.
Listen, in my version, this is what happened in my version. Did he not have COVID, Bert?
He tested positive for COVID. No, yeah, sure. Let's claim your narrative here.
No, we're not. We're sticking to the facts. So the only important detail in there is that he tested positive for COVID and could not play, right?
Well, he was playing. They pulled him out.
I got you, but he went back on the field, right?
For the celebration.
After
the initial celebration, he went back later on, yes.
And was hugging and kissing and touching all of his teammates.
Those who were comfortable with it, yes.
Okay. Any of those players, anything come of that? Like, did any of those players go to the hospital?
I mean, look, it was in lock and key. Like, nobody came out and said, hey, I got it from Justin Turner. It basically stopped dead after the championship. So
what you're saying is nothing happened?
Nothing that we know about.
Oh, okay.
Let me plug in my laptop, guys. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
No, you're good. So fans at the Super Bowl were not wearing masks and separated protocols were broken. Steve, I noticed that. And I think the NFL, and I believe in the middle of the first quarter, noticed it too, because they were very conscious to only show those cardboard cutouts. They were very conscious.
Noticed that, by the way, and I don't know if anybody caught this today, but I don't know if it was like the DA or like the mayor or whoever it was from Tampa Bay said, we know who was at the Super Bowl, and if we have them on camera without their mask and without guidelines, then they're going to be prosecuted. So
they ain't going to prosecute shit, man. There's no way. I know they have to say that. I mean, Florida has the balls. Are you serious, Florida? You guys have been COVID city since day one. You are not going to prosecute nobody. There are underground nightclubs being right now in Florida and in New York. That no, it's ridiculous. They're not. They just it's so stupid. They have to say it, and it's because their partnerships with the NFL and ESPN and all these broadcasters. It's such a dumb, stupid thing that they're doing. He was also without a contract as we speak. Yeah, so I guess he was talking about Justin Turner. I mean, that strengthens my argument, man. Like, it's he's absolute legend. So yeah, that'll be interesting. WrestleMania is the next big sporting event that's coming up, and I mean, they haven't had fans since the beginning of COVID.
Where is that this year?
Tampa, I believe.
It is back in Tampa.
Yeah, they're doing it in Tampa, and that was because Tampa was supposed to have it last year. And that was when COVID hit and it had to get canceled. They moved theirs to their Performance Center, which is in Orlando. Now they're actually going to have it where they were supposed to have it. I believe they're going to try to get away with what the Super Bowl got away with, which is intermingling fans and separating them with cardboard cutouts of people. We'll see how that goes. They've been doing something they call the Thunderdome, which is basically rows of video screens of people on Zoom live reacting. I'm sure there'll be a mixture of that.
That's what they've been doing a bunch of.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool idea. I mean, I like the creativity. AEW has been based in Jacksonville, and they've actually had fans for months now, and nothing has happened there. And I think that's why WWE is finally gonna get off their boy pussies and get this thing going. But yeah, at the Buck Stadium. So yeah, same place the Super Bowl was played, where it was supposed to be played last year. They're gonna go for a mulligan on that. So yeah, WrestleMania is the next biggest sporting event that's happening, and so we'll see what happens with them. Guys, this hour went by so fast to me. I loved it. Before we get out of here, just wanted to say rest in peace to Coach Marty Schottenheimer, top 10 in wins, died at the age of 77. And
didn't he just get let go from Seattle too? Was that him, or was that another Schottenheimer?
No, that was his son. His son was he was let go. He was a coordinator for Seattle, offensive coordinator, I believe.
Okay, I was about to say that's so crazy, but yeah, okay, cool. I was just clarifying.
Yeah. His son Brian, I believe, is his name.
Oh, okay, there we go. Yeah. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Awesome.
Yeah. Marty was, I believe, a former Seahawks head coach, most notably head coach of the San Diego Chargers. So rest in peace to him, and rest in peace to ESPN baseball analyst Pedro Gomez, died at 58. Bert, I'm not sure what he died from, though. I couldn't find that.
They said it was sudden. I don't think much has been released since, but I know when I saw that on Sunday, I was probably just as shocked as everyone else, because, if you'd watched baseball, really anything ESPN, you've seen his face before, and it's a huge loss. He was a great journalist, great reporter, and great personality for ESPN. So, RIP, man. It's very, very sad. And 58 too is very young.
Yes, very young. I'm sure the details. I mean, it just happened day before yesterday, so I'm sure the details will come out in the next week or so. But yes, you're right. 58 is extremely young. I will be very interested to see what happens. By all accounts, everything I read about him, everybody loved this guy. And I know you say that. I know it's like cliche to say that about somebody who passes, but it seems like every person who encountered and had an interaction or a relationship with Pedro Gomez had nothing but glowing and positive things to say. Very sad when we lose humans of that caliber to anything that when he obviously at 58, you're not supposed to be dying. So very, very sad. So shout out to him and his family and Marty Schottenheimer, Coach Marty Schottenheimer. Well wishes, prayers, or however you grieve, and condolences. Yes. Adam, man, bro, this was great. You are welcome in our house anytime you want.
I really want to be on every Tuesday, man. I love being on, bro. I love this show. This show.
I appreciate it. You can catch Adam Lewis, What Off Szn Sports Pod, at What Off Szn Sports Pod. You see it right there on the tag. He's on Twitch. He's on YouTube. He's everywhere, man. He's the future. He's going to be on CBS or ESPN Radio one day. Trust me. You heard it here first. Bert, you got anything for us?
Good. This was an awesome hour. Adam, thanks so much for joining. We appreciate the support as always, and definitely check out What Off Szn with Adam. It's honestly, it's a great show. And if you follow him on Instagram, his short little bits and videos that he does are on point too. So I guess with the NFL season wrapping up, I think your focus is going to be more towards the NBA.
Yeah, I'm going to be looking at the NBA. So I'm definitely obviously going to be getting back into MLB as well. But I've really, my passion has always been football, definitely always been the NFL. So I'm definitely going to try to drag that content out as much as I can. Definitely going to be looking at some mock drafts, overall needs of teams, just kind of closing the season out in my own little creative way, but definitely going to be looking at the NBA and MLB too, for sure, man.
Yeah. All 2010s team. Next. No.
For real.
We will. Yeah. Next week, spring training happens next week. We'll try to get into that. Your boy's out of Facebook jail, so we will be back live on Facebook next week, next Tuesday. We'll still stream on YouTube, but you will also catch us on the official Stuff About Sports page, fan page, and the real Stuff About Sports page at Stuff About Sports Show. Hey, Adam, Bert, this has been great. Next week, we'll talk some baseball. We'll dive into some NBA and whatever else comes up from the sports week. Until then, everybody take care of each other. Have a good night, and we will talk to you next Tuesday.